Shireen Bhan, who is in an exclusive conversation with Hardeep Singh Puri.
What we are likely to see startups do, particularly here in India, on that front. As someone who's run India's longest-running show on startups and entrepreneurship, a show called Young Turks, which turns 23 in June, I think we know a thing or two about the potential and the promise of India's startup ecosystem. And to the question that was being asked on what will it take to ensure that we actually see the Indian startup ecosystem flourish, I think 2024 in many ways has been a breakout year because we've seen the kind of exit possibilities, the kind of listings that we've seen in the Indian stock markets for new age companies, the startup companies, so to speak, that really has given us a flavor of the kind of potential that is possible. There is, of course, another big event coming up as we chart out the roadmap for Energizing India, which starts today, but we're also now heading into the India Energy Week, which promises to bring together global companies here in India. And I believe that this is going to be the largest event that we are hosting here in India as part of the India Energy Week. Mr. Puri, I'll get you to give us more details on that in just a second, but also the opportunities that that presents. So without further ado, sir, before we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship, may I ask you to lay out the roadmap for us as far as the energy market is concerned in 2025, especially as we navigate a Trump era?
Thank you very much. As in the past, it's both a privilege and something enjoyable to talk to you about the global energy landscape. I'm a little taken aback by your question about, or rather your wanting me to lay out. With all the humility at my disposal, let me tell you, I'm one of those who can only make a little contribution in navigating the unfolding scenario. The laying out of the global scenario, I think, is now, and I hope I'm not misunderstood, beyond the contribution of any one individual. The honest God's truth is that between technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, and all that, which we are going to be discussing in a moment, the fact of the matter is that 2024 has demonstrated, it has confirmed what we have been saying, some of us have been saying for some time, that there is more energy coming onto the market than can be consumed in the foreseeable future. Now, I'm choosing my words very carefully. The fact that more energy is coming onto the markets is an empirically verifiable fact. I mean, you have more production taking place in hitherto non-producing places. Some of those names were not there. Now you have expressions in the English language, finding another Guyana. I keep using it. I keep saying you're going to find not one, many Guyanas in the Andaman Sea. Existing producers are producing more. Yeah. That's one side of the equation. You see Brazil, 3 million barrels a day, getting another 1.5 lakh barrels additional. Canada, Guyana, Suriname, and the United States, which is one of the largest, perhaps the largest producer, 13 million barrels of oil they produce, they're going to put another 1.5 million. That's the common thing. We don't know what else will happen when, shale and other things. But then along with that is another set of countries which actually has been trying to cut back production, and they have succeeded by 5 million barrels a day from 102 to 97 or so. But not all of them are complying with it. The fact of the matter is there's more oil coming on the market from some of those sources than they would want. Now, their decision to cut back is essentially on account of their desire to maintain the price level. They think for balancing their budgets, they need something like $80 a barrel. Today, the price seems to be heading more towards 70, 72 rather than 80. That's the crude oil price. If you look at gas, on that you're on surer ground that the investments which were made into natural gas over the last 10 years are today bringing more stuff on. If you look at investment in pipelines, you look at more long-term prospects, If not in 2025, not in 2026. I know some of my friends, the OMC chiefs, are not always agreeing with me because they look at it in terms of their, books
Yes.
in the immediate future. And that's a healthy situation, that you have a minister who's looking at long term and the OMCs are looking at their quarterly profits. Shireen, I can tell you that story about anyone being able to influence negatively the price going up. What is welcome is a newly elected president of the United States. And this is my personal view. It's for the citizens of a country to decide whom they elect. But here is a gentleman who says, bring the international price of oil down. Here is a person who says, he's calling on everyone to bring the price down. He's also saying that's the best way of doing X, Y, Z, controlling inflation, bringing interest rates down. He's appealing to all these state actors and non-state actors. Let's stop these senseless wars. That is positive news. I'm not a soothsayer. I don't know how far that is going to go. But you've seen the results of that, certainly in the Middle East. There is a peace deal. There is an exchange of hostages underway. I am reasonably confident that a conflict which started in February 2022 cannot go on even by itself. But the President of the United States has appealed. I mean, I can repeat to you the tone of the appeal. I love the Russian people. President Putin is my friend. I call on him to end this senseless war. And that is combined simultaneously with disincentives to all parties, that I will stop aiding you if you go on fighting kind of thing. And there is a part of that is the leveraging which is taking place on oil. I mean, the outgoing administration put in place some additional sanctions on 2 entities as far as I remember, and some shipping fleet. But even if you look at the language of the incoming energy secretary, it is couched in terms of wanting to use this as leverage to resolve a problem. The direction is very clear. The direction is international prices at the bunk should come down. People should benefit. Economies should benefit. We should get on to other forms of economic activity. I don't want to comment on the rest, but on the energy front, to me, this is a plus-plus.
Let's understand this plus, as you called it, sir, from an Indian context. And I'll ask you this on the back of the conversation that I had with Fatih Birol at the IEA. And he said for 2025, one of the favorite things that he's going to be watching out for, his favorite word is going to be diversification. Diversification as far as source of fuel is concerned, but diversification also in terms of energy bets. And I'll ask you this now with the Trump administration making it clear that people need to start to import more from the US. What is it going to mean in terms of India's import mix? And with the rupee depreciating, what do you anticipate the import bill is likely to be impacted by?
First and foremost, the diversification of sources of supply is something that we had embarked on already. I've been associated with this ministry for 3.5 years. One of the statistics I've been throwing around is, we used to import from 27 countries. We import from 39 now. Lately, I saw one of our companies, BPCL, adding 1 or 2 other countries. So it should be 30. I think they imported a consignment from Argentina, if I remember. And there's also talk of 1 or 2 other. Angola also. So that diversification is going on. But Shireen, that diversification provides you at best satisfaction in terms of geographical spread. Your primary sources of supply essentially for the 5.5 million barrels that you import are the traditional suppliers in the Middle East. To that you've added Russia. I see some of that changes because the United States has become a major supplier. Now, we are today, I think if you look at the 2 previous financial years, I think it was $19 billion and $20 billion. So if you were to ask me a question, and let me anticipate you're asking that question, can I import, I meaning India, import from the United States more? My answer would be an unambiguous yes. But again, all our imports are based on some fundamental, self-evident truths. We will import from wherever we can if the price is right. We never imported anything from Russia. I think up in February 2022, our imports were only 0.2%. Today, it's gone up. Russia, Iraq went up and down in the last few years. Who was the major supplier? Today, I see the United States, if they are gas from the United States, by the way, in any case is very profitable.
Yeah.
I think it's about $2 cheaper also if I'm going by rough
Sure.
comparison. So we are importing $20 billion of energy from the United States. Can we import more? Answer is yes, we can. We probably will. I don't know. These are decisions which have to be taken. Can we source more from elsewhere? Again, my feeling is yes. I have said so on many occasions, not so often on record in the public domain, but in my discussions with my bilateral colleagues. I've very often told them, look, you've got a major find, like Guyana. Now, obviously, somebody's marketing that oil for you. But please remember, the way the world is changing, I can anticipate things for, let's say, we were there in 2023, 24, for another 5 to 10 years. But what happens if, Shireen, suddenly a lot of oil comes available, then it becomes more decidedly a buyer's market.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the seller, of course, if the seller is not there, buyer kya karega? But the point is, if a large economy like China is reaching a point of satiation, I should use the word saturation, but I think they're satiated. Because they have their own, their vehicular traffic is moving to EV, but that EV is tied to thermal.
Yeah.
So how much more oil can you sell? So I see in the coming months, the newly elected president will want to sell more energy to Europe. I already see talk of that. We will have bilateral discussion. I don't know when this will figure prominently because the new administration is settling down. But I know the economic operators on both sides are already talking about it. We've had people in Texas, Houston, Texas, and others coming to us for many years now saying that we want more offtake agreements, we want this, we want that. All that is clearly discernible in terms of the shape of things to come.
Well, as you rightly pointed out, I would imagine that these are going to be conversations that take place. And of course, the expectation is that Prime Minister Modi will be in the US at some point during the month of February. Of course, we don't have a final date yet, and perhaps this will be part of the conversations, including what was discussed between the two leaders last night in the phone conversation that took place between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi. But let's talk about the priorities that are in your control, sir. And this is something that we've spoken about many times in the past, and I believe you've been able to achieve that blending target or close to the blending target that you'd set out for yourself, almost now at 20%?
You know, we are always a month late. So we are today on the 25th of 28th of January. The figure we have is of December. No, we don't. We have November. And I think that figure have we got the December figure? Not yet.
19%.
90%. So 19.9%, 19% is there. Now, if you have a target of 20% by the end of the ethanol blending year, which is October, and you are already in January talking about it based on previous figures, you don't need to have any knowledge of, rocket science or anything to know that you've already reached the 20% figure.